Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. 10:36 p.m. Central Time on November 24th, 2015. And I've got you looking at Earthquake 3D here, which is a USGS feed of the most recent earthquakes. And right now we're looking at the last 24 hours of activity. You can see on the screen here, two back-to-back 7.7 magnitude earthquakes struck in Peru at the Brazil border. One in Peru, the other in Brazil. They are two separate earthquakes recorded by the USGS. And look at the depth of these earthquakes. If you're a longtime viewer, you already know this. New viewers, the higher these are off the planet, the deeper they are into the earth. That's an Earthquake 3D feature. So you can see there's shallow earthquakes in the United States and around the West Pacific and the East Pacific. Two deep rounds of earthquakes struck today. And what does that mean? It means that over the next few days, there should be shallow upwelling pressure occurring in the adjacent areas to these deep movement epicenters, and it should be larger than the current activity that we currently see now. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it translates out to swarms instead of one single larger earthquake, but we do need to be on watch for a possible larger earthquake than these two back-to-back 7.7s, which to me equals out to at least an 8.0 or greater. If you really think about two 7.7s in the same area, a couple, 100 miles apart, the equivalent energy on that is huge. And the depth on that, for longtime viewers, you know that this deep activity down in the asthenosphere, that semi-melted magma area, I've got a graphic on the screen here right now. Take a look at it. You can see that this is just a rough diagram, but it shows you that the plates rest on top of, supposedly, semi-melted magma. And when we see earthquakes happen down there, it causes a shallow upwelling pressure on the plate, below the plate, that causes these earthquakes to develop out. After the deep events, shallow larger earthquakes hit, and usually in an area nearby that's silent. Now, there has not been any large earthquake activity over the last several weeks along the West Coast, specifically Central America, West Coast United States. We need to be on watch. So just letting you guys know that occurred. Also, renewed activity on the West Coast. Also, Yellowstone, 2.8 started out as a 3.1 struck. Another 4.0 magnitude earthquake struck at the fracking operations in Oklahoma. Overall, guys, this is a lot of activity to see. The time to develop a plan is now. I know it sounds, kind of hokey to prepare when you don't know if you're going to be hit or not. But at a time like this takes us back to 2011. Really, it does, guys. And we started to see this building earthquake pressure over the course of weeks and months, and usually people ignore it until it's too late. So I'd just like to stress for you to just develop a plan. Know what you'll do in case of a large earthquake. Your friends, family, loved ones, co-workers, employees, have that plan developed now, especially if you're in a seismically prone area like the West Coast. Of course, they already know this. But in the United States, along the edge of the craton, we're talking about more activity coming our way, guys. No doubt about it. There's no way we're going to see this kind of movement happen. Take a look at this activity over the last 36 hours. You can see the entire west coast of the United States moved from the Pacific Northwest all the way down here to the Midwest in Oklahoma. That takes us right across the Markagunt Plateau, the volcanic plateau, Yellowstone supervolcano, also up here in Idaho, associated with Yellowstone, believe it or not, that 3.4 that you see on the map here. Even though Yellowstone's where the 2.5 and 2.8 struck, the actual magma chamber reaches far down into the Earth's crust and reaches up into Montana and westward into Idaho. So when you see earthquakes happen at these spots, it lets you know the plate's under serious pressure. So it's no joke. This is no exaggeration. You can see it on the map here now. Let me go ahead and show you over the last 7 days. And there's other 7.0 and greater earthquake activity that struck all the way around the Pacific. You can follow the earthquakes over to Europe, where we saw the largest earthquake to strike in the last year and a half, almost 2 years. That was down in West Greece, also across the Mid-East. You can expect that we're going to see some new large earthquakes develop out over the next several days based upon world events and other things that are going on. So pay attention to what's going on now. That will determine where to watch in the next several days. My earthquake forecast still stands for another day, 2 days. I will do a new earthquake forecast, especially in light of these new deep earthquakes. Look, we don't normally see deep movement this large, only a few, maybe a year, that are this big and this deep. If this holds true, if the deep earthquake hypothesis holds true with large earthquakes, we see it when a 4.5, 5.0 strikes at a deep level. We see a 6.0, 6.5 strike at a shallow level. Well, if that holds true for large earthquakes, then we'll see a magnitude higher, possibly a magnitude and a half higher than the 7.7. Hope I'm wrong. Hope it just develops out into a series of swarms around the plate as opposed to a single large earthquake like what could happen. Not saying 100% on this because we don't normally see this kind of deep activity that's this large, so I don't have very much to base this on. So all the areas we were watching to see that movement strike did get struck. And so now is the time, guys. Really, this is the go time. If you're a prepper, if you're into preparing, this is the time where you develop your plans, dust off your supplies, make sure you're brushed up on all the stuff that you might need if you're in an area that could get cut off by a large earthquake. And this doesn't just apply in the United States. This talks internationally. We're talking about around the Pacific Plate. I issued a warning 36 hours ago telling South America and the Pacific Plate to be on watch for a large earthquake to strike in the next day or two. And then these two 7.7 struck in Peru, causing some serious shaking up down there. Scared a lot of people. I don't know if anybody was injured. Luckily, it was at such a deep level that the whole area most likely displaced. The whole area shook. We're talking the whole region, 1,000 miles across or more, possibly shook off of these earthquakes, as opposed to if that were to strike at a shallow level, we're talking about massive damage to structures and landslides and that sort of thing. But because of the depth of this, we now need to be on watch in other areas to the north, to the south. Be on watch. This is no joke. This is, again, guys, I've been doing this for 5 years. There's only been a few times where I've had to issue a major large earthquake warning watch. This is one of those times. All right, guys, much love. Be safe.